Something like a week ago, we got news that the ultra-wide sensor on the upcoming Oppo Find N5 will be going from the 48 megapixel sensor that we got on the Find N3 and the OnePlus Open down to a rather, maybe you would say, underwhelming 8 megapixel sensor. Now, of course, this sent the internet into a tizzy, as you would expect. This is a massive downgrade, right? 48 megapixels down to 8 megapixels. However, we really needed to wait until we got the actual specifications of this sensor because resolution alone does not tell the full story. After all, the 48 megapixel sensor on the Oppo Find N3 or OnePlus Open did not shoot at 48 megapixels. It bends down. It does pixel binning, and the output is something like 12 megapixels. The reason they do this is so that they can take 4 pixels on the sensor and combine them into one super pixel, and that allows them to gather more light. And there's a lot of science involved, but it's a thing that a lot of OEMs use. The 200 megapixel sensor on your Galaxy S25 Ultra does not output a 200 megapixel image. That would be insane. You can do that, but you probably shouldn't. It pixel bends down much smaller. So again, we needed to see the actual specifications. But we have those now, and we can talk about them. So apparently, the sensor in question is the OmniVision OVO8D. And now this sensor has actually been used in a couple of other devices from Oppo, from Poco. So you can Google this, and you can find these specifications. So that is exactly what I did. And now that we have that information, it might be worse than we were even thinking. So yes, we know that it is an 8 megapixel sensor, and last year was a 48 megapixel sensor, which was binned down to 12 megapixels. That was the part that we all kind of freaked out about a couple of weeks ago or a week ago, whenever it was. But now we also know that it is a 1/4-inch sensor. That is the physical size of the sensor. Last year in the Open and Find N3, 1/2 inches. So what does that mean? That means that the new sensor is quite a bit physically smaller than the old sensor. Now, I think this lines up perfectly with the hypothesis that was put forward by a lot of people, but I know that I did say it as well. When we found out that this thing would be an 8 megapixel sensor, the idea was that they're doing this to save space, to be able to make this device even thinner. And yes, indeed, going from 1/2 inches down to 1/4 inches is a pretty darn big reduction in size. This thing is a lot smaller. The old sensor had 4 times the surface area of the new sensor. So what happens when you make that change? Well, you have less physical space to gather light. So the result there is that you're going to have more noise in your photo. You have a worse low light performance. You're going to have a slower focus. You just have less light being gathered, and you need light to take good photos. And we're going to continue this trend because we also have 1.12 micrometer pixels. And you may say, but Shane, last year they were only 0.8 micrometers, but they were binned. And when you bin a 48 megapixel sensor down to 12, you take an 8 or a 0.8 micrometer pixel and you turn it into a 1.6 micrometer pixel. So once again, the physical pixels that eat up that light are now also smaller than the super pixels we had before. So once again, all of that is true. Less light being gathered, more noise, slower focus, less detail, on and on and on. I think the only silver lining here for me is that I very rarely use my ultra-wide cameras. I almost always just use the primary, and then I'll pull up that telephoto quite a bit as well, and both of those look like they're going to be just fine. They're 50 megapixels. The sensor sizes should be fine. The pixel sizes should be fine. Those should be absolutely solid sensors. But if you use the ultra-wide a lot, this is going to be disappointing. And whether or not it was worth it to make that trade, basically murdering your ultra-wide in the name of thickness, that remains to be seen. Now look, there's a lot that can be done with software and processing, but it's not truly magic. And I have to really stress to you guys, do not expect this ultra-wide to perform very well. Let's all hope that we are going to be surprised with how good it actually is. But from this, it does not look particularly encouraging. So just put that data point in your head. We can wait for reviews and see the samples themselves. I'm sure that in good, brightly lit scenes and so forth, it's probably going to be fine. But when you get into lower light or even like normal light, this thing is probably going to suffer pretty heavily. There's no other way to spin it, guys. So hit the comments down below. Tell me what you think. Does this affect your buying decision? How much do you use that ultra wide? Again, let me know down below. Subscribe for more content like this. And until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.